TradeMentor.org was built on a simple idea. When people understand the path, they can build a future. Founder Doug Winston is helping guide the next generation of skilled careers at a time when demand for workers, especially electricians, has never been higher. Welcome to Skilled Nation, where hard work meets real opportunity. From welding and electrical to HVAC and the trades that keep this country running, this is where skills turn into careers. Skilled Nation is sponsored by Tulsa Welding School. It's a way of life, a badge of honor. So today we're talking about the skilled workforce powering our world. And Doug, welcome to Skilled Nation.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's get to know you a little bit here. Let's start with TradeMentor.org. What was the inspiration to create it, and what problem were you trying to solve?
So, I've always been a big advocate of the skilled trades, and probably going back a few years ago, I was involved with another organization. I was on their board of directors, and we would, worked on awareness and promoting the skilled trades. And what would happen is we were starting to find out that, we gave scholarships and things like that. And we were talking to parents, and they would say, well, we really need information. What do you mean? It's like, well, we're not getting it from guidance counselors and teachers, and we have no idea how to get started. Our kids are interested in the skilled trades, and unfortunately, we have no resources. So I found this pretty interesting, dug in a little more. I had an experience where we spoke to a parent who said, literally went to her son's guidance counselor. Her son said, listen, Mom, I'm not going to college. And he says, no, we didn't expect you to go to college. We know you're not really, it's not your interest. So I think I'd like to be a plumber. So they go to visit the guidance counselor. Guidance counselor says to him, what do you want to know? Well, I'm not going to college. Can you help me out, maybe with trade schools? Oh, I can't help you with that. But you should try community college. They go to community college, and the guy they talk to there says, oh, yeah. You can't even apply for the plumber's apprenticeship unless you take our plumbing 101 course, So they're like, oh, okay, great. Sign him up, goes to school, gets in the first class, a couple of days, and comes home and says, Mom, the guy teaching the class isn't a plumber. We have no practical, there's no shop, there's no nothing. All we're doing is reading out of a book. Honestly, this thing's a joke. So now they get a little more concerned. Now they go and talk to the apprenticeship director at the union. And they said, is that true? We really had to take that class? No, that's not true. You didn't really. The only prerequisite is you need either a GED or a high school diploma. You have to be over certain, over 18. And at the end of the day, look, the story has a good ending. The kid ended up getting a job actually as a steam fitter at a submarine factory. So he's off on a good path, but it just led us to believe that, there's really not a good resource out there. Teachers are not given the information they need by design. Schools, for the most part, and it's not all schools, there's a lot of places that are doing better jobs than others, but as a rule, the performance metric that schools are judged by is percentage of kids going to college. So if they can stick them in community college, they can still check that box and say, yeah, I went to college. So enter TradeMentor.org. I got the idea that we were going to put together a team of industry professionals who could give information to tell people about trade schools, apprenticeships, on-the-job training, workforce development opportunities, pre-apprenticeship programs. And, we just launched this last year, just got our 501c3 in September of last year. And, we're moving along.
Hey, congratulations. That 501c3 is tough. It's a lot of paperwork. So congratulations on that. That story, and I know that's just one anecdote, right? But
just one. Got lots.
And I'm sure you have a bag full of them, but there's a lot to unpack in that. I mean, first of all, let's talk about kind of the metric that a high school counselor or a high school is judged on, like you said, is college participation after graduation.
Yep.
So all the incentives are aligned to dissuade kids from looking into the skilled trades at a time when nationally we need the skilled trades. This disconnect is upsetting. Can you explain what do you have to do to change the incentive structure for high schools?
Well, look, we have to get to parents, because if you're not going to get it from the schools, then we need to give the parents and the kids the resources, right? So number one, we have to start with, how do we get them interested, right? We have to find resources and career fairs, geared towards skilled trades, where we can get them in there, get them interested. Middle school, not too early, right? It's not too early. Unfortunately, if it was up to me and you said fix the problem, I would reform the entire educational system, because we would turn around and we would say, you know what, freshman year of high school, we're not going to sit here and review everything you did in the first 8 years of grade school. What we're going to do is we're going to do exploratory classes, and we're going to learn about careers. And you know what? You can pick a few different tracks here. You can look at healthcare if you like. Maybe you want to be a doctor or a nurse. We could look at the skilled trades. We could look at things like automotive. We could look at manufacturing, all things within the skilled trade. And we would look at both degreed and non-degreed pathways, right? Years ago, if you look 60 years ago, high school had a very distinct purpose, and that was to prepare most people for the workforce and a select few that were going on to professional endeavors for college. Today, when everybody goes to college, there's nothing special about college. It's 13th grade. And a lot of times you talk to parents, they don't even know why a kid's going to college. So what are your son going for? Oh, he's taking history, but he may change his major to psychiatry. And I'm like, was he interested in that? Well, I really want him to have the college experience. Oh, that's good. Yeah, $200,000, why not? Sure, whatever. I mean, if he could afford it, great. But for the rest of the people who, are attentive to the fact that, hey, I'm interested in a career that is something I want to do, something that interests me. I mean, the fact of the matter is if you cannot teach somebody something they're not interested in, right? So we could turn around and we go, oh, we need this, right? This was the big fallacy 20 years ago. We need people to learn how to code. We need computer programmers. You need to learn to do that. Well, what happened? All those jobs went to India. Things were outsourced. Now, don't get me wrong. Are there careers available in tech? Sure there are. But the fact of the matter is we pushed people into a bunch of jobs and then we offshored them. So, we need to look at what the needs are of today, right? So if we look at the demographics of the skilled trades, we're facing a huge skill draft. For every 5 that retire, we got 2 coming in. So we need to fix that problem. And this is all part of our problem here.
Doug Winston is the founder and CEO of TradeMentor.org. He is attacking that problem by making those connections. And before we talk about this, some of this, Doug, sounds like an awareness problem, right? It's
part,
kind of
yes.
like a PR marketing problem. How do you change that? I know some of that is what you're doing with TradeMentor.org, but describe the environment into which your nonprofit is entering this space. I mean, right now, as you say, you have counselors and teachers basically trained and incented to dissuade the trades. So how do you even get it on kids who want to work with their hands, who want to have that technical experience? How do you even get it on their radar?
Again, like I said, you have to reach the parents first. Okay. Because if you're not going to get it in the schools, they need a credible source. So a parent is going to be the way. And that's why we try to inform parents about these opportunities, inform parents to say, hold on a second, a plumber is not a dead-end job. I can't tell you, I read something probably about 6 months ago, and it was it was an article talking, and it was, again, disparaging the trades, and it said, we need to dissuade kids from dead-end jobs like ditch diggers and plumbers. Now, look, let's unpack that a little bit, right? So ditch digger, right? Okay. Well, we don't call people ditch diggers. Maybe we have construction laborers today, and a lot of them go through apprenticeship programs, and a lot of them are making $30, $40, $50 an hour. Okay, so we can take that off the table as being a dead-end job. Now, the plumber? Well, listen, a plumber who goes through an apprenticeship in 4 years, 4 or 5 years, he's going to be making top pay. The kid who goes to college for 4 years comes out with an looking for an entry level job with zero experience, and maybe he's got debt. Whereas the plumber now has no debt because his apprenticeship was paid for through the program he went to, and he's at top pay, which could be $50 to $60 an hour in some parts, let's say the Northeast regions, and maybe out on the West Coast if you're up in California and in those areas, right? So we've got to look at getting that information to parents and say, listen, the skilled trades are not dead-end jobs. They're not jobs. They're careers, okay? And there's a pathway. And whether you decide you want to be a journeyman your whole career, and you could probably make six figures and do very well, get a good pension, and do quite nicely. But you also have the opportunity to become supervision. You can become a general foreman, a superintendent. You can eventually maybe move into the office, become an estimator, a project manager, a project executive. I know people that have started in the field who are vice presidents and presidents of companies. They've never went to college. They have absolutely no education above high school, but yet they're some of the most intelligent people you've ever met. You would never know that they don't have a college degree because they are schooled in their craft and their trade, and they're also schooled in business. So, there is opportunity. So these are careers. These are not jobs. And that's the message we have to drive through to parents, because when the parents see, well, I don't make that much money, that would be more money than I'm making. Well, everybody says, I want my kids to do better than I did, but they all thought that equated with college. So now we need to get them to explore non-degree pathways.
Yeah. And honestly, not to disparage the parents, they're part of the whole system that has been pounding the one message over and over for longer than a generation. So it's just out about opening up eyes. Let's talk, Doug, about the mentorship. How does it work? So let's say somebody goes to TradeMentor.org and they're a mentee, or they want to be a mentee. How do they connect?
So right now, we're still working on having our website built out. When the website is built out, there is going to be an interactive portal. That portal is going to be able to give you information about pre-apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship programs, workforce development opportunities, trade schools, all things of that nature. But until then, we still have the opportunity out there. We've put together a team of some really, what I call rock star mentors, who are all industry professionals. And all you need to do is send a email to mentoringrequest@tradementor.org, and you tell us where you live and what trade you're interested in. And we're going to get somebody to hook up with you, in a day or two. And we're going to set up, that ability. But when the website is done, you're going to actually be able to do this through the portal. So you'll have, just like you and I are having a Zoom meeting here, we're going to be able to have somebody who is an experienced industry professional, can answer questions for a kid and maybe a kid and his parent who said, hey, I'm interested in being an electrician, but I don't know what an electrician does every day. I think I know, but okay, fine. So let's talk about what your day is going to look like and what the good days are going to look like, what the bad days are going to look like. Let's talk about how much money you can make. Let's talk about these career opportunities we just talked about. Let's talk about how you get started. You're in this area, so look, you're right between two union locals here, so you may want to look at Local 3, or you may want to look at Local 363 because you're pretty close here and you can apply to both of those programs. This is the kind of real-world, regional, specific information that our mentors are able to give. I'll give you an example. We had a mentoring request that came in last week. A young man who was working as a non-union plumber, as a plumber's helper in a suburb of Chicago, and said, look, honestly, I have no formal education. I'm interested in getting into an apprenticeship program. Can I talk to somebody? And we didn't have a mentor in Chicago at that point yet for plumbing. Reached out to one of our other mentors who sold his company to a large nationwide mechanical company. Said, do we have a resource in that area? Give me a day. Came back. Not only did we get that kid a mentoring session, but he got a job interview to come in and speak to that person's service manager.
Wow, that's incredible. And you're talking about something I think is critical. You're going to have people all across the country, boots on the ground, who know the specifics of that market and who the players are. For people listening, what you're describing is mentorship, which is delineated from an apprenticeship. Will you kind of define those? But how does one help out the other?
Sure. So look, mentorship is a general term, right? And mentoring, this doesn't just end with, that's great, we got you into to an apprentice program, we helped you with a trade school, we helped you find this. This is going to be a career-wide mentoring program. So let's pretend now you're 4 years in and you're thinking about, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about, maybe I'd like to be a contractor one day. What steps do I need to take? What should I do? Should I take a business class? Should I take this? What do I have to do to get a license? We're going to provide that as well. So if you're interested in, you have an entrepreneurial nature and you would like to keep talking, we're going to keep talking to you. Now, you asked an apprenticeship. What is an apprenticeship? It is the most abused word in the trades right now. And it is taking a beating on social media because the TikTok crowd, who really doesn't even understand, is creating all this clickbait. And I read a post not too long ago. It was like, oh, you need 8 years experience to be an apprentice and you have to spend $20,000 worth of tools. And it was just such misinformation. So what is an apprenticeship program? An apprenticeship program, a real apprenticeship program, is a state registered program where either an employer or a group of employers, right? Multi-employer plan is the preferred route, which would typically be a union or a trade association who establishes this. And basically what happens is they file with the state for an apprenticeship program. And they say, okay, like here in New York, our program's 66 months. You start off in this program, there is a prescribed level of pay for you and benefits. You are going to get, with every so many hours worked and so many classes taken, you're going to get a raise. You're going to move to the next level. That's going to continue. You're going to continue to get raises until you get to journeyman level. Okay? There is a prescribed plan of education that goes with that. Your employer is paying for that. He either pays directly if you're in an employer plan, or he's paying into a multi-employer plan like a union plan or a JATC, Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee type plan. And in those situations, you usually are rotated between employers so that you get a more well-rounded experience. But, not always the case. It's not part of the plan. All plans are going to vary by state. But at the end of the day, if I talk to parents all the time, and I'll have a parent say to me, oh, yeah, my son's an electrical apprentice. Oh, okay. Is he in the union program? Oh, no, he works for Joe down the street out of Joe's garage. Well, I'm pretty sure Joe doesn't have a state-approved apprenticeship program. He's a helper. He's not an apprentice. So big disparity. Now, I'm not disparaging the helper. I didn't go through a formal apprenticeship. I came through a non-union pathway. I worked as a helper, took classes on my own, and I got my electrical license when I was 25 years old, and I went into business immediately. But the fact of the matter is, there's many pathways, and our mentors can discuss that. But we're going to give you the best pathways and say, this is the gold standard. This is what you should try for. You may not get that, so here are some other options. And again, it's an ongoing living conversation that we're going to have.
All right, I'm taking away from that. Don't get your career advice from TikTok. Whatever you do, go to TradeMentor.org. We're talking to the founder and CEO, Doug Winston. And Doug, we hear about labor shortages all the time. We hear about the growing need for skilled workers. From where you're sitting, how real is that need? Give me some sense of the disparity.
Well, I gave you the statistic before. Across the skilled trades, it's estimated that we have 650,000 open positions just in construction alone. And that doesn't take into account manufacturing, automotive, and service trades, which obviously other things there. But that disparity is being caused because our average workers are getting older and older. We're talking about 50 years old being the average age in the skilled trades in many sectors. And with a ratio of 5 people retiring to 2 coming in, it's not hard to see how in a very short time we're going to be in a bad place when it comes to boots on the ground.
What about it would seem to me, but I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the expert, Doug. That electrical, because our world's becoming so much more digital, so much more interconnected, so much technology driven. Is electrical a particular area of need or opportunity?
Absolutely, and there's also subsectors to that, right? So, AI runs on data centers. Data centers need power, lots of power, which means electricians, HVAC, mechanical trades. Those are all going to be critical to the construction and maintenance of a data center. But let's look at what else we need. We need to produce that power. We need to get the power to the data centers. So linemen, right? The guys that build the lines that power our substations, that power our data centers. Substation construction is usually done by composite crews between linemen and electricians. Okay, so there is a huge amount of opportunity in the electrical trades. We happen to be what they call an inside-outside shop. So my company, we apply both electricians and linemen, and we're actively engaged in building the high voltage infrastructure for data centers and all types of facilities. And these are all opportunities that are coming, but they're here already. They're going to continue to blossom. Some areas are seeing huge rapid growth. Places like Iowa, Arizona, a lot of places out in the Midwest where there's a lot of available acreage. They're building data centers, but we just finished building a substation for a Verizon data center right here in the New York metropolitan area. So there is opportunities everywhere. Electrical is certainly a very viable trade right now. And again, average age of electricians and linemen is getting up there. So those are definitely careers that if it interests you, you want to explore.
Yeah, for sure. We're here in Arizona, 20, I think, active, either planned or under construction.
And from what I understand, yes.
This is going to only grow because really these are feeding AI, which is on a growth trajectory. Gaming, streaming, all those things are still emerging and have not peaked in terms of their demand. So,
absolutely.
Data centers right now is creating opportunities. What other for the next generation in other trades? What are you seeing that's kind of one where you could really point to something like AI streaming, say explosive growth and need. What's the hidden one that people aren't thinking about?
Look, there's lots of them out there. I mean, look, welding, fabrication. We're seeing a lot of women getting very interested in welding. And I always said that, I could kind of see that because, if you've ever welded, welding is a lot like penmanship, right? You need a steady hand and it's like cursive and it's perfect and it's precise. And it really lends itself to women very well, I think. So it doesn't surprise me that we see a lot of women being interested in welding. So that's a correlation I've always made, but it's definitely an up and coming thing that we see. Welders are definitely in demand, depending on what it is where you apply that. And that could be in manufacturing, that could be in the skilled trades as being for steam fitters or a boiler maker, a millwright. These are all people that are actively engaged in and need welders. So again, that's a good subsector to look at.
So mentors tend to talk to the younger people coming up. They're maybe thinking of making a change. So as you kind of put on your mentor hat for our listeners, right? Mm-hmm. What's the most important thing? Is it mindset? Is it skill? Is it adaptability? Is it willingness to learn? What advice do you have? What attributes do they need to bring to the table to succeed?
Well, look, people in the skilled trades are cut from a special cloth. And it doesn't mean everybody is going to have an interest. It doesn't mean everyone's going to have the skill sets that are required, right? So if you're going to be in the construction trades, you need to ask yourself, am I okay with working in a muddy ditch on a cold day? Am I okay working on a 100-degree roof on a hot summer day? And would I enjoy working outside in the spring and fall when the weather's perfect and everyone else is sitting behind the desk? So that's one thing. And then there's the actual interest of that particular sector. Now, look, if you say, I hate working outside, well, auto mechanics work inside pretty much all day, right? So if you have an interest in cars, auto technicians, there's auto body, there's auto mechanics, there's diesel mechanics, and there's all kinds of specialty trades, right? So these are other sectors that can be explored. Manufacturing, we're looking at an explosion of manufacturing in this country because with the advent of tariffs, we're now looking at companies that are previously based offshore that are coming back, reshoring here, and they're building factories and they're looking to produce made in America products. At least twice in the last month, I have gotten an email from a foreign company that I don't do business with, letting me know that by Q3 2026, they will be producing their product domestically so that if we have any projects with made in America requirements, they're going to be able to fill it. So manufacturing is going to be another hot topic, whether that, again, welding and fabrication, CNC machining. Again, look, electrical switchgear. Electrical switchgear is made in a factory by people that are wiring and building bus work. They're configuring PLCs. They're doing all kinds of technical stuff in a factory over there. So maybe you don't want to work outside. You're not cut out for that. Well, there's probably still an opportunity that you can explore to say, hey, look, you know what? This manufacturing company that makes electrical switchgear, they've got an opening and they've got an apprentice program where they've got some sort of workforce development opportunity. So there's unlimited amounts of opportunities.
Doug Winston is the founder, CEO of TradeMentor.org. So if you're feeling a little adrift, that's where you can go get some guidance. What's the biggest misconception when people actually connect with you, when they actually send that first email, or eventually when they're going through the portal?
Yeah.
What's the thing that surprises them the most? I mean, we've kind of talked about some of the biggies, like the opportunities, the career paths, but what's something we haven't touched on that might be surprising to our listeners?
That we have the answers. I had a mentoring session that I personally did with a young man who wants to be an electrician here in New York. And his mom is a friend of mine. And she said, will you speak to him? Of course I'll speak to him. I speak to total strangers. Of course I'll speak to him. And we got on the phone and I basically just went through a bunch of bullet points. And I said, okay, ask me some questions. He says, I don't have to. You told me everything I need to know. And I said, you got to have some questions. He goes, no, everything I was going to ask you, you already told me.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, I'm here. You call me when you need anything else. You let me know how you make out. But okay.
Sounds like you've done this before. What's it feel like for you? I know that in the mentor-mentee relationship, everyone thinks about what the mentee, right, is getting out of it. They're getting all that experience funneled into them. They're getting reality checks. They're getting real information from boots on the ground in the marketplace. Yeah. But for you, what does this mean? When you see someone kind of light up when they realize there's a skilled trade that matches their ambition or matches their aptitude, what's that feel like for you?
It's the same for me and for all our mentors, and every one of my mentors all have the same feeling. We loved what we did when we worked in the field. Many of them, some are still in the field. Most of them have progressed into more executive level jobs or more supervisory roles. But we all share a love, a passion for what we did, and a strong desire to give back to the industries that were good to us. And in doing so, to be able to bring a kid who has an interest, and again, it doesn't have to be a kid. We also work with veterans that are returning who say, I've never known anything but the Army. I don't know what I want to do. We were more than thrilled to help them on a pathway. And there's people who are starting over. I can't tell you how many people I've mentored that say, I went to college, I'm in sales, I make good money, I hate what I do. I always was interested in being a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter or something. And in those conversations, when you finally show them that there's a pathway and you help them get to where they want to be, it's just incredibly satisfying. And I think we all share that same pleasure in just wanting to give back and seeing that that those eyes light up and the excitement in a young person who probably may have not been very interested academically in school, but now found something that really interests them and they're excited.
You have a story that stands out, like a particular mentee that really that you touched and who really had a great story, a turnaround?
There's so many. Good question. I would have to say there was a fellow who reached out to me, and he said, I'm thinking about getting into the line industry. I'm interested in being a lineman. And we talked extensively about the whole pathway and, where he might work and where he may have to travel to and what his apprenticeship would be like and how much money he was going to make during that. And I kind of followed him through that for about a year and a half. And I finally get an email from him and said, I just want to let you know I'm starting my apprenticeship next week. And, that's a great feeling to see that and to know that, you helped guide along the way and he loves what he's doing. But the fact of the matter is that that's one situation I'm kind of telling you about, but it's kind of the results almost all the time. You kind of see, that you've just helped them get to where they want to be.
Doug Winston, founder, CEO of TradeMentor.org. We've talked about a lot of the challenges. We've talked about a lot of the problems, about how counselors and teachers have some strange incentives, how parents maybe don't have awareness. What gives you hope? What gives you hope that we can step up to the problem, fulfill the market demands with fresh talent that is prepared for these jobs?
My mentors. They energize me because every time we just draw them in, and now what's happening is there's this cumulative impact because we bring in a mentor and he says, oh, by the way, I want to introduce you to this guy who says, hey, I'm really interested in doing this. What else can we do? And it's growing organically. And it's so exciting to see that we're spreading out across the whole country, hitting different sectors. And there is just such an enthusiasm, and that's really exciting.
Well, getting online like that, I mean, it lets you, everyone who's wired up, everyone who has Wi-Fi can get on, everyone has a cell phone. So, I mean, your impact, your ability to have an impact as people grow to know this is going to just be monumental.
Yeah, we're definitely, we're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep growing. We're going to keep creating a great network of mentors. I mean, we literally can't vet them fast enough. We've got several hundred applications pending. People have just submitted that they're interested in being a mentor, and we still have to go through that vetting process. And that's one thing that we're very proud of is that the people that we are bringing in and unfortunately there are people that we can't utilize because they may have been. Let's say in the industry, they're retirees, but they're so far removed, they've moved. And I would say, so if a kid in your area asked you, how do I go about getting into the plumber's apprenticeship? Could you tell them? And the answer is, well, no, I really don't know. Unfortunately, that's not somebody that we can utilize. We can't have that. So we'll find some other way for them to help. But the fact of the matter is that, we're putting together one really strong team who is just, again, industry leaders who can answer these questions that seem to be so hard for everyone else, and they're just so obvious to us.
And one last thing, because you have the opportunity to connect with everybody, make the case that the skilled trades are for everybody, right? I mean, you mentioned more women getting into the trades. I mean, in terms of all the demographics, what struggles do you have to make people feel welcome in the trades who might have misconceptions or preconceptions?
Well, Look, there's a place for everyone who's interested, provided that they're motivated and they understand the commitment, and that's part of what we do at Trade Mentor. Understand the commitment. Hey, if you get into apprentice program here, somebody is spending money on to send you to school. You decide 2 years in that you don't want to do this anymore. You've cost somebody a lot of money and you took someone else's spot in that program. But again, awareness and just there's a lot to be said about providing accurate information to people who are interested, but you also have to make sure that they understand that not everyone is cut out for every role. And that's part of what we do.
Well, Doug, how do people connect with TradeMentor.org besides going to TradeMentor.org? Should they be following socials, sending email for now?
So I try to reach parents by using LinkedIn because we hear a little bit more of a professional, format there. We don't get lost in the noise of the Instagrams and TikToks. We're going to be on those platforms with more of a presence in the near future. But for now, I post a lot of content geared towards parents on LinkedIn. You can find a ton of information on there. You can find me on there, and I'm accessible. If you have questions, you can send me a message, and I'm always able to get to you. But you can always send, again, a mentoring request at TradeMentor.org, or if you want to just send me a message, dwinston@TradeMentor.org.
There it is. Don't hesitate. Use that information and build your future. Doug, thank you so much for talking us through TradeMentor.org, and this is an exciting opportunity you have going there.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
When people understand the path, they can build a future, and that future is being built by skilled hands every day. I want to thank Doug Winston for lending his insight today, and I want to thank you for listening to Skilled Nation.